Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first chapter of Monetary Economics. What is money? We'll start with a few definitions first. Let's talk about the term currency. Very often we say statements like, I have some money in my pocket. And in this way of using the word money, what we usually refer to is cash, which is made up of coins and paper bills. The more technical term for cash in economics is currency. So it's important to know that currency is only a fraction of money, but money is not necessarily currency or cash. Okay. The definition of money is anything, and as you can see, the word anything is highlighted for good reasons. Money is anything that can be used for the purchase of goods and services or for the repayment of debt. Okay, so purchasing goods and services can be done with currency, of course, but with other means, and all these other means are actually part of money. It can also be called money. Few other examples: checks, debit cards, money orders. Today we even have cryptocurrency, which is a newer form of money. In the past, there were a few other forms of money: seashells, precious metals, rocks, pieces of cloth, salt. And a very interesting fact about salt is the word salary stems from the Greek word salarium, which actually means salt. Okay, because salt was, at the time of trades, a lot of big trades among countries on different continents, salt was a very big form of money because it was used for purchasing goods and services and for the repayment of debt as well. Prisoners of war in World War II would use cigarettes as a form of money. Okay, now let's look at another way we usually use the word money. The individuals on the Forbes 500 list have a lot of money. So in this way of using the word money, what we are actually saying is they have a lot of cash, these individuals, okay, and a very high checking account balance. But we also say, and this is implied, that they have a lot of cars, they have stocks, they have bonds, they have houses, maybe private jets, yachts. They have a lot of properties. And the technical term to refer to all these non-monetary items which are part of your wealth, and we're going to talk about wealth in a second. Okay, that technical term is assets. Okay, so an asset is a piece of property which carries value. Actually, money in all its forms is an asset. Okay, but there are many other assets which are not monetary assets. In other words, an asset is what an individual, a firm, a country owns. Conversely, we also have liabilities, and liabilities refer to debt. Okay. So, a person's wealth, a company's wealth, an entity's wealth is nothing but the difference between the entity's assets and its liabilities. Okay. It is also referred to as your net worth. Okay. All the things that you owe minus all the things that you own minus all the things that you owe. Okay, that's your wealth. Okay, now let's talk about, after looking at the definition of money and the different ways we use money and what the technical terms that we should have used instead are, let's talk about the functions of money. So money in all its forms, in the past and the present, or even in the future, has three main functions. Okay, and the three functions of money are that money is a medium of exchange, it is a unit of account, and it is a store of value. Let us go deeper into these functions and understand, learn what they actually mean. What is a medium of exchange? Well, this is a function of money which is embedded in the definition of money. We said that money is anything that we can use to purchase goods and services. And that's the primary function of money. Okay, so anything or something can only be called money if one of its functions is for the purchase of goods and services. Okay, now this is different from the barter trade system. Okay, and that's the system that was used a long time ago the system in which a good or a service was exchanged for another good or a service. Okay, so these days, I mean, today the barter trade system is not widespread anymore, but it still happens quite often. Okay, a friend can decide to give you a six-pack of soda in exchange for teaching him a very complex economic concept. And this happens all the time nowadays, but it is not widespread anymore. So you can't go to the grocery store and offer to give them something in exchange for something that they sell, for example. Okay, now let's talk about the barter trade system a little bit and why it is not widespread anymore. The barter trade system works very well in small economies, but you see, economies have developed a lot nowadays, and this very important requirement for the barter trade system to work, called the double coincidence of wants, is a problem nowadays. What does it mean? The double coincidence of wants simply means that for any trades to happen between two individuals A and B, individual A must have what individual B needs, and individual B must have what individual A needs. Okay, only then can the barter trade system work. But this is problematic because you see, can you imagine all the products that we have nowadays, all the goods and services that we have? What if the person who has what you need and who needs what you have is, I don't know, 2,000 miles away from you? Okay, how is trade going to happen? But a long time ago, when people were living in small communities, well, this was much easier. Okay, so an economic system with money is much more efficient because anything can be purchased using the same medium, which is money. Okay, money is in all its forms. So you don't really need to look for someone who has what you need and who needs what you have. Okay, so this was the first function of money. Money is a medium of action. Number two, money is a unit of account. What does it mean? Well, there are many things that we measure daily. We measure speed, we measure temperature, weight, distances, and we use specific units of measurement for that. Miles per hour for speed, degrees Celsius or Fahrenheit for temperature, pounds for weight, long distances in miles, and so on and so forth. So just as we use units of measurement to, refer to specific things we measure, money is also a unit of measurement. And what money measures is value. Okay. So we know that a 4-bedroom house has more value than a phone. Why? Because the price of that house is higher. So we use the price, we use money as a way to measure the value of the house, and we can compare it to the value of the phone and then determine the fact that the house has more worth, basically. But the question now is, what kind of value does money measure? And this is an important question because there are two forms of value. We have what we call value in use, which is actually the usefulness of an item. And we have the value in exchange, which is simply the price. So money does not measure the value in use, it actually measures the value in exchange. Look at this example. Water. Water is a high value in use because, hey, our survival depends on water. Okay? But it has a low value in exchange. You can get a gallon of water for, I don't really know what it goes for at the store right now. Maybe $1, I'm not sure. Okay? But without water, you cannot survive. But let's talk about diamonds, a piece of diamond. Well, it has a low value in use, in the sense that your survival does not really depend on it. Of course, you can make someone happy with it, but it doesn't really have a high value in use, but it has an extremely high value in exchange. Diamond is extremely expensive. Okay, so once again, the kind of value that money measures is value in exchange and not value in use. Okay, now this function of money also reveals another deficiency with the barter trade system. And that deficiency or inefficiency is the number of prices. Alright, in a barter trade system, you can only price one item in terms of another. In the monetary system, we all have a common unit for measuring value. But with a barter trade system, that does not exist. Okay, so let's assume that we have an economy with four goods only: good A, good B, good C, and good D. Well, in an economy with four prices, there will be four products, there will be six prices. You will need the price of A in terms of B. You will also need the price of A in terms of C, then the price of A in terms of D, then the price of B in terms of C, the price of B in terms of D, and the price of C in terms of D. These are six different prices that you need. Okay. Someone may ask, well, we also need the price of B in terms of A. Why does it not show up on this list? Well, simply because if you have the price of A in terms of B, from that price you can derive the price of B in terms of A. So there are only six useful prices that you need. Everything else that is not showing up here can be derived from these six useful prices. Okay, so can you imagine there are more prices than items? But in a monetary system, well, you only need four prices if you have four products. You go to the store, the four goods or the four products are on the shelf, you see four price tags and you know how much they are and you can purchase them like that. But you see, this is an economy with only four products. What happens if there are more products? Well, there's a convenient way to calculate the number of prices. So in an economy with n different products, the number of prices would be n times n minus 1 divided by 2. So as the number of products increases, well, the number of prices increases exponentially. So I made a graphic that shows this fact. As you can see, on the x-axis you have the number of products, and on the y-axis you have the number of prices that are required in this economy. And you see the exponential growth. In an economy with 500 prices, okay, this is how many prices we'll need. Well, it's kind of hard to know what value is here, but we have 250,000 here. So can you imagine what we have? Maybe half of it, so that would be 125,000. That's a lot of prices. Now let's look at something that we can basically tell. So we have 1,000 products. For 1,000 products, we need 500,000 prices. Now this is extremely difficult because you see prices change all the time. Let's assume that I'm a farmer and I have cows. So what will happen if there's an epidemic of the mad cow disease? Okay, during an epidemic of the mad cow disease, the price of beef will fall. Now, if the price of beef falls, then I will have to reevaluate the price of beef in terms of all other products in the market. So I will have to reevaluate the price of beef with respect to eggs, the price of beef with respect to oil, the price of beef with respect to ECON courses, and so on and so forth. And beef is not the only good whose price is changing in the economy. You have many other products. So it is basically impossible to monitor all these goods and all these prices and all these interactions. It is very complicated. Using a monetary system, well, we just have one price for one product. So if the product loses value, then that price for the product decreases. And that's really what we need with money. All right, so a few questions for you to think about it. Can you guess how many distinct goods and services there are in our economy today? Hundreds of thousands, millions, more? Okay, if that is the case, how many prices would we have under the barter trade system? Answering this question shows how impractical this system is today. Okay, it gets even more complex when one or more goods decreases in value, like I just said. The discovery of electricity made coal a less useful item. If coal decreases in value, then n-1 prices need to be updated. Okay, think about the amount of work involved in updating prices, knowing that the price of a significant number of goods keeps changing every day, like gas, gold, iron. I mean, who is going to take care of updating all this every single day? This is insane. So money is a unifying factor that we use for determining value, and it's more practical in that sense. Okay, so this was the second function of money. We said money is a medium of exchange. We also said that money is a unit of account because it allows us to measure the value in exchange of a product. The last function of money is that it is a store of value. Okay, now in order to understand it, let's think about something that we do very often. When you go grocery shopping for the week, for example, your intention is not to consume everything immediately. So, what you do usually is that you store your food in your fridge or in your pantry. Why? Because you want to keep the food or the items and consume them later. In that sense, your fridge or your pantry serve as elements for deferring consumption to the future. Okay, you defer your consumption to the future. Well, in the same way, money contains value which can be stored over time. And that's one thing that is good about money, in the sense that you can keep it, and as long as you keep it, that value stays with you. And of course, we're going to talk about it. That value actually decreases a little bit over time because the value of money generally decreases with time. Okay, but just as your fridge allows you to defer consumption to the future, well, money allows you to defer your purchasing power to the future. So if you have money today, you have some purchasing power. If you keep it until next month, that purchasing power will move with you in time, and you will have that purchasing power next month. Okay, so you can use it to purchase goods and services or to repay debt. Okay, in the future. Okay, now again, this is another function of money which shows some inefficiencies with the barter trade system, because many products that we use are non-durable products. For example, agricultural goods. Okay, so they cannot store values for long. Let's assume that I'm a tomato farmer. Okay, when I harvest my tomatoes, I only have so long to sell them for people to consume, or else they go bad, and once they go bad, I can't sell them anymore. They are not usable anymore. Okay, and I lose everything that I have. So it means that in a barter trade system, people that are producing non-durable goods are at a disadvantage. Why? Let's assume that I have tomatoes, and you have, say, you are a professor and you teach mathematics, and I want to exchange some tomatoes for your knowledge for my son, for example. Okay, so I want you to teach my son some math. Well, we could agree that, okay, for every hour that you spend teaching my son, I'm going to give you 5 pounds of tomatoes. Well, if you disagree and you say you want 10 pounds of tomatoes for every hour, well, I have no choice, because if I don't accept this deal, all my tomatoes are going to go bad anyways. Okay, so I have to accept. Of course, you'll tell me, well, you can find another math teacher, but the other math teacher can actually say the same thing. I want 10, or worse, I want 15 pounds of tomatoes for each hour of instruction that I give to your son. Okay, so non-durable goods are, put you at a disadvantage in the barter trade system. Money is better because money is a store of value, a better store of value than agricultural products, and everybody can use it. You can keep it in your wallet, you can keep it in your bank account, you can keep it on your phone. If you're into cryptocurrency, you can keep it on an account, and so on and so forth. Okay. Well, it's important to say, and I said it earlier, that money, although money is a better store of value than agricultural products, it is not the perfect store of value. Okay, you could actually say that money is a leaky store of value because its value decreases over time. Its value decreases over time. So you see, $100 today is worth more than $100 in 1 year. Actually, if you asked your grandparents how much, let's say, a gallon of gas costs, okay, used to be when they were your age, okay, well, they'll tell you some amounts that would surprise you. Okay, they'll tell you it was 30 cents a gallon or 20 cents a gallon or something like that. Okay, which means that 20 cents back then was worth a lot more than 20 cents today. And this is why for the same gallon of gas, you need to pay, let's say, $4 or $3 or $2 something. Okay. All right. So the three functions of money, and it doesn't matter the form of money that we're talking about. The three functions of money are that money is, once again, a medium of exchange, it is a unit of account, and finally, it is a store of value. Now, let's talk about the liquidity preference and the motives for holding money. Well, let's talk about the term liquidity first. Liquidity refers to how easy it is to turn an asset into cash. Okay, and cash is the most liquid asset. So basically, with cash, you can buy anything. But for other forms of money that we have, or other assets in general, it doesn't have to be money. An asset is liquid if it can be easily turned into cash. Okay, so let's look at some examples of assets from most to least liquid. So you start with cash, which is the most liquid. Then we have a debit card. The reason why a debit card is less liquid is because using a debit card requires, those devices that we have in stores where you insert your card or you swipe. Okay, well, these devices are required. If a store does not have these devices, you cannot purchase anything from them. Okay, but with cash, if you have cash, you can go everywhere because it's the most liquid, right? You can buy whatever you want. So a debit card is less liquid than cash. Checks are less liquid than a debit card because checks require that you go to a bank. Well, we have e-banking today. You can take a picture of your check, and then the money is going to be deposited in your account. But again, the process is much longer, so it's less liquid than debit cards. You have an Amazon stock. If you own an Amazon stock, you will need to find someone who is interested in it, sell it, and then you will have cash. And then, of course, a private jet, which is not as liquid as everything that was mentioned before. So an asset's liquidity may change over time. So when an asset is hot, in other words, when a lot of people are interested in buying it, then an asset becomes more liquid. But of course, if people are not interested in it, the asset becomes less liquid. Let's talk about cryptocurrency. In 2017, 2018, when the price of Bitcoin, went up, cryptocurrency became very liquid during that time. But now that the price is not as high as it used to be, the liquidity of cryptocurrency has fallen since then. Okay, and we are in March 2020 right now. Okay, so once again, money is not a good store of value, as we said earlier. So again, it's not the only store of value. There are many other assets that store value. There are durable items that store value. So any asset by definition is a store of value, right? And many assets are better stores of value than money. Let's take a house, for example. Well, a house is a better store of value because it has the potential to gain value over time. And this is a fact. A house will increase in value over time. Of course, the economy may go through a recession and the price of your house may go down, but this is temporary, right? At some point, the price is going to get back up to where it was, and then it's going to keep increasing. Okay, prices rise over time. This is known. This is a known fact. Okay. Now, besides the potential of gaining value, a house is an asset that actually puts a roof over your head as well. So it has value in use, and it has a good value in exchange, which increases over time. So in that sense, a house is a better store of value than money because, again, the money loses its value over time, and a house will gain value over time. And you can't really do anything other than spend, or purchasing things with money. It doesn't really have a value in use, right? It only has a value in exchange. Okay, a stock, from any company may also gain value over time. In addition, you earn dividends from holding a stock. In other words, you gain some sort of interest. You get some additional money from holding a stock. In that sense, a stock, depending on if the company is performing well or not, a stock may be a better store of value. But when you hold money, well, it does not bear any return. You don't get any interest from having money in your pocket or in your wallet, and at the same time, the value decreases over time. Okay. All right. But the thing is, and this is what is known as the liquidity preference, people prefer the more liquid assets in general. So, despite the fact that money is a leaky store of value, it is a proven fact that people prefer to hold money rather than add other assets of equivalent equivalent value. I'm sorry. So most people will choose $1 million in cash rather than a $1 million house. Okay, despite the fact that it's a leaky store of value, the value the value decreases over time and all that. Well, people still want $1 million. Okay, I do too. Rather than a $1 million house. This is known as the liquidity preference theory, as I said earlier. So the question now is why? Why is it that we want the money? We want the cash, okay, rather than assets of equivalent values. Okay. Well, there are three motives. There are three reasons that explain it. The first one is the transactionary motive. Okay. If you have cash, you can purchase the goods and services you need or you want. If you have any other asset of same value, you cannot do that. So if I have $1 million, I can buy X, I can buy Y, I can buy Z, but with a house I cannot do that. That's number one. Number two, we have the precautionary motive. Well, precaution means that you want to have some cash ready so that you can take care of unforeseen circumstances like sickness, car accident, coronavirus and whatnot. You want to be able to be ready in case anything goes south, as we say, right? With a $1 million house, you can't do that, right? So it's just an asset and that's it. So that's the precautionary motive. Number three, we have the speculative motive or speculation. And the speculative motive simply means that, or for investors at least, they are always on the lookout for better investments. So even if there's a great investment opportunity today, there's always this feeling that a better investment opportunity will come up in the future. So what they want to do is they want to wait for that better opportunity. Okay, they can invest a little bit of their cash right now in the present opportunity, but they will keep some for the future. So for that reason, they hold they want to hold some cash rather than a $1 million house. So these are the three motives that make up the liquidity preference theory. Okay, people prefer the more liquid assets rather than other assets of equivalent value simply because of the transactionary motive, the precautionary motive, and the speculative motive. Okay, now let's talk about the characteristics of money. Okay, I should say the characteristics of good money, because we know that if any item has the three functions that we discussed, it is called money. But what makes money good money? Okay. Now this is a list of criteria that need to be met for anything to be considered good money. All right, money that is efficiently used. Number one, it needs to be easily standardized. What does it mean? It means that it must be easily replicable. Okay, you need to be able to replicate it so that people can recognize it, and it must be easy to ascertain its value. It must be reproducible. Okay, well, the thing is, if any one of you sees one bill or one note, depending on the kind of English that you speak, of 50 units of your currency. So I live in the United States of America, so the US dollar is used here, right? So if you see a $20 bill, you will recognize it as a $20 bill. It's not going to take you, it's not going to take you a lot of time to know that this is a $20 bill, all right? Because the US dollar has been standardized. Okay, if you see a $1 bill, a $5 bill, a $10 bill, you will recognize all this right away. Okay, so that's the first criterion there. Number two, wide acceptance. Well, the truth is that the legitimacy of money comes from the people, those who are using it. So if the government says, okay, today we're going to use this item as money, if everybody says no, well, this is not going to happen. So good money is widely accepted. That's number two. Number three, it needs to be divisible. In other words, you need to be able to make change. All right. So whatever you use as money needs to be broken down into smaller units. This is one of the reasons why salt was very popular at that time for as money, because it can be easily divisible. Okay, so from $10 from a $10 bill you can get two $5 bills, or 10 $1 bills, and so on and so forth. So good money needs to be divisible. It also needs to be portable. Okay, we need to be able to move it from one point to another. And e-banking is a revolution in that regard, because you can use your phone, you can transfer money with your phone or your computer. Things have been made very easy. Okay, it needs to be portable. It needs to be durable. Some of the notes that we use today, guys, we don't know how long they have been in circulation. Maybe 20 years, maybe less, maybe more. I'm not really sure. But the bills that we use are usually very durable. Okay, and then it needs to be relatively scarce. That's another very important criterion that needs to be met. Because if money is not scarce, then it will not have much value. So it needs to be relatively scarce for it to have some value. Okay, there are other criteria that we may want to add to them. Okay, but these are the main criteria that need to be met for money to be an effective form of money. Of course, all the forms of money that we've used in history do not necessarily meet all these criteria, but it is good to know them. Now, let's talk about the evolution of the payment system. In history, as I said earlier, humanity has used many forms of payments. Okay, and let's talk about them a little bit. Okay, now the introduction of money to economic systems solved many inefficiencies related to the barter problem, or the barter trade system. Sorry, as we said earlier. But all forms of money are not equal. Okay, even though money was introduced to the system, many of the forms of money that we were using and are still using still have some problems. So newer forms of money were developed to address the issues of older forms of money. Okay, so the evolution of the payment system has come a long way, and the evolution process is not over, because new forms of money are developed every single day. Well, let's discuss a few types right now. Commodity money. Okay, now a commodity is anything that has, or commodity money is money that has an intrinsic value. Okay, in other words, it can be used for other things than purchase goods and services. Like gold is commodity money, silver is commodity money, copper. Okay, so these are used as forms of money, but of course you can use them for other things. One issue of commodity money, remember, portability. We said that good money needs to be portable. So this is very difficult, So if a rich man needs to move overseas, like how would a rich man who wants to buy an island overseas want to move all the gold he has to do that, if gold is the form of money? Well, we're going to talk about, this is going to be tons and tons of gold to buy an entire island, and it's not very portable. So that's fairly difficult. What about fiat money? Fiat money is a form of money that does not have much intrinsic value, like the US dollar, for example. So the value of a $100 bill comes from a government decree and the fact that it is widely accepted. But the truth is that a $100 bill is only a piece of paper and some ink on it. So it doesn't really have much intrinsic worth. But the fact, once again, that the government has made a decree, if you look closely at a dollar bill, you'll see something written on it. Okay, and the fact that we accept it also gives it some value. Portability is less of an issue than commodity money when it comes to fiat money, but portability can be also a problem, because if we're talking about millions of dollars, well, how much money are you going to move if you have to purchase something that is, if you want to buy a private jet or something like that? Well, that's a lot of money to move. So portability can also be a problem when it comes to fiat money. Checks. So, and again, remember we said that newer forms of money, let me go back for a second. We said that newer forms of money came as a way to solve the problems of the older systems, right? So from commodity money to fiat money, fiat money solved the portability issue of commodity money, even though for much larger amounts it also has some portability issues. Checks came to solve the portability issues of fiat money as well. Okay, so writing a check is actually an instruction that you give to your bank that a specific amount should be transferred to another account. This is what writing a check means. So no physical currency is moved, so the portability issue here is solved. But we still have some problems. We have some physical limitations. If you are on the East Coast and you need to purchase something on the West Coast using a check, well, it's going to take the check, if you send it by mail, it's going to take the check a few days, okay, before reaching its destination. So we have this physical limitation. Once again, e-banking, your usage of smartphone has solved this problem. But again, this is even a newer form of money that solve the problems related to writing checks. Okay, so let's talk about that. These newer forms of money, or payment systems using our smartphones. We have electronic payment systems. So they are a byproduct of the development of IT and the internet. Electronic payment systems are arguably the greatest revolution in the monetary system. Today we use PayPal, Venmo, Android Pay, Apple Pay. You can pay your bills online using some websites. They use the Visa system or the MasterCard system. So today payments are instantaneous and they minimize the risk of theft. You can purchase something in Japan right now, okay, and it's going to take you 20 seconds to do that. Okay, so this is all the electronic payment systems are really, really great. Okay, we also have e-money. E-money is money, okay, which only exists in electronic form. And e-money is usually faster than cash. For example, debit cards, gift cards, okay, and things like that. Cryptocurrencies are also examples of e-money. All right, and we have more modern forms of payments. Okay, so we're going to watch a video, which is a video of a form of payment system that Amazon developed a few years ago, and it actually solves a few problems with our current payment systems, and it is not very widespread at the moment, but it is a newer form of money. So let's take a quick look at this video.
4 years ago, we started to wonder, what would shopping look like if you could walk into a store, grab what you want, and just go? What if we could weave the most advanced machine learning, computer vision, and AI into the very fabric of a store so you never have to wait in line? No lines, no checkouts, no registers. Welcome to Amazon Go. Use the Amazon Go app to enter. Then put away your phone and start shopping. It's really that simple. Take whatever you like. Anything you pick up is automatically added to your virtual cart. If you change your mind about that cupcake, just put it back. Our technology will update your virtual cart automatically. So, how does it work? We used computer vision, deep learning algorithms, and sensor fusion, much like you'd find in self-driving cars. We call it Just Walk Out technology. Once you've got everything you want, you can just go. When you leave, our Just Walk Out technology adds up your virtual cart and charges your Amazon account. Your receipt is sent straight to the app, and you can keep going. Amazon Go. No lines, no checkout. No, seriously.
All right, so this is Amazon Go, newer payment system. And I must say that I almost got mad when that lady put back the cheesecake on the shelf. Yeah, you don't do that. This is heresy. And yeah, one thing that I also need to say is that that's a disclaimer. I have no affiliation whatsoever with Amazon. Okay, I don't own stock with Amazon. I don't know. I'm not one of the board members or whatever. I've never worked for Amazon. I just used it. Use the name of the company in my slides because it is well known. Okay, so now let's talk about measuring money. Okay, it's really important to measure money. Really, really important to know how much money total we'll have in the economy. Okay, we have in the entire economy. Okay, so let's talk about measuring money. So when we started the chapter, we said that money is anything that can be used to purchase goods or services or to repay debt. That's the definition that we give to money. But the problem with that definition, even though it is true, is that the definition is too vague. So it is important to establish firm rules, and sorry for the typo there, I wrote firm's rules. So it's important to establish firm rules about what money is and what money isn't. The money supply in an economy, okay, is the quantity of money in circulation in the entire economy. So that's the quantity of money in all its forms in circulation in the economy. And in the United States, the institution in charge of the financial system is called the Federal Reserve. Okay, it's the central bank basically. And in order to measure the money supply, they use two main units or two main measures. And sorry for the tautology here. M1 and M2 are the two measures that they use to find out how much money we have, or to find out what the money supply is. Okay, let's talk about the first measure called M1. The first component of M1 is currency, which is the first form of money that we define in this chapter. So this refers to coins and paper bills held by non-bank entities. So essentially what we focus on here is currency held by people and by businesses. Okay, so all the currency held by banking institutions, financial institutions, and all that, they are not considered part of currency. Okay, so in other words, I want to find out how much money there is in the entire country. The first thing I want to do is I want to go to all the pockets of everybody and all the wallets of everybody, and I want to sum up all the cash amounts that I will find there. And by everybody, I mean businesses and people. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, today is March 18th, 2020, and traveler's checks are not part of M1 anymore. It was actually taken out last year in 2019. But the reason why I kept it in my slides is just for historical purposes, just for you to know, okay, what these are. So, traveler's checks are pre-printed form. This is a pre-printed form of medium of exchange which can be used overseas. So essentially, you would go to your bank and tell them, okay, I'm trying to travel and I need $2,000 from my account. So it's more like a withdrawal. So what the bank will do is the bank will print a check, if you want, okay, a piece of paper with the amount, printed on it. And this became a valid medium of exchange wherever you went when it was used. Okay. There are two main advantages of using traveler's checks when going overseas. Number one, insurance, which means that if the traveler check gets lost or stolen, it's going to be replaced by the banking institution. And number two, you don't need to travel with cash, because if you lose cash, no one is going to replace it for you, or if it gets stolen, no one is going to replace it for you. So they have become rare nowadays, but they still exist, and they have become so rare that the Fed has decided to take it out of the measuring of M1. Okay, and they are actually known as money orders today. Okay, we also have demand deposits. Demand deposits are essentially checking account balances. Okay, so remember the mission here is to know how much money there is in the entire country. Okay, so one thing that you can do, or one thing that you have to do if you want to find out, again, you sum up all the cash held by people and businesses in the entire country. You also need to add to that the sum of all the checking account balances. Okay, so a demand deposit is an account holding fund that can be withdrawn without prior notification to the banking institution that holds the account for you. So checking accounts accessible by a teller, an ATM, and online platform. That's really what demand deposits are. We also have other checkable deposits. Okay, now the other checkable deposits are really just like checking accounts, but they have more perks. So they are all often customized and they bear interest. Okay, and these checking accounts are usually designed to attract more customers to the bank. For example, currently on my way to work, I drive by a bank which for a very long time had a banner outside saying veteran checking account. Okay, and with a whole lot of things written on the banner that I could not read. But basically, what happens there is if you are a veteran, you can open these specialized checking accounts that have more interest and more perks. So these are checking accounts, but again, they are specialized or special, I would say, checking accounts. Okay, and the funds held by these accounts are also part of M1. So these are the three components of M1: currency, demand deposits, and other checkable deposits. When you sum all these three up, the amount that you get is the money supply, okay, especially the M1 measure of money supply. Now, some of you may ask, okay, well, I know a few forms of money which are not included here. Okay, why are they not included in the money supply? Well, these are definitely included in the M2 measure of money supply. So the first component here of M2, as you can see, is M1 itself. So everything that is in M1 is also in M2. Currency, demand deposits, and other checkable deposits are in M2 as well. And to that, we add small time deposits or small denomination time deposits. And these are essentially, accounts that you open for a specific length of time during which your ability to withdraw the money is limited. But during that time, the account basically bears interest. All right. So if you want to withdraw money, you need to notify the banking institution that you're going to do so. All right. So these are, you can see them as investment vehicles, basically. You can open a small time deposit of 6 months. So you open that account, you don't withdraw anything for 6 months, and then it bears interest. Okay. This is part of M2. On top of all the elements of M1. You also have saving deposits, which are saving account balances. So checking account balances are part of M1, okay, and of course of M2 as well. Saving deposits are part of M2 but not part of M1. These are accounts holding funds, and there are more restrictions on these accounts than there are on regular checking accounts. And the main restriction is the number of times you can withdraw money from them every month, which I believe currently is 6 times per month. Okay, and one thing about saving deposits too is that they bear interest. Okay, so they are interest-bearing accounts. Okay, now the last component of M2 is retail money funds, also known as money market mutual funds. Well, these accounts are basically, these are not accounts, these are funds, I'm sorry. So basically you have several people that have money and they decide to put their money together, and this money is then entrusted to a financial expert who then invests the money, okay, for them. Then the benefits or the profits from the investments are redistributed to the investors. Okay, these are called retail money funds. Now, of course, the way I explain it, you might think that, okay, the people who are investing money need to know each other and they need to, plan, okay, let's put this together and then give it to the company. No, this is not how it happens. You have businesses, firms that are actually in charge of things like that. So whenever you go there as an individual or as a business or whatever, and you give them your money, they will put your money together with other people that have done the same thing and then invest in financial securities for you, and then you will get part of the profit as well. So these are the measures of these are the components of the measure called M2. Okay, now let us look at what the money supply looks like today. Now, the most recent official estimate of the money supply is, third quarter of 2019, and these values here have been generated dynamically. So they are actually the most current values as I speak today. Okay, so it's important to know that there are values that are more recent than that. So we have some values from actually March 2020. But whenever an estimate for M1, M2, and all these things is made, it goes through some adjustments. It goes through some adjustment processes, and after the adjustments have been made, then the official amount is posted. So this is exactly what is happening here. So I call this the most recent official estimate because these are the adjusted amounts, so they are more correct than the more recent ones. Okay, so for M1 we have, and all these values are in billions of dollars. M1 is $3,965 billion, and the component currency $1,712, demand deposits $1,578, other checkable deposits 674. So of course the other checkable deposits are way less, but I find it actually very interesting. With the advent of e-banking for all this time, I find it interesting that there's still more currency in the economy than all checking account balances put together. There's still more cash. And this actually leads me to a very interesting question that I have for you. How much money do you think each person living in the USA holds on average? Okay, how much cash do people living in the USA hold on average? Well, in order to find the answer to this question, it's a very easy process. We'll use this value, how much cash there is in circulation in the United States, and we will divide it by the number of people in the United States according to the latest census. And that value is the amount held by people on average. So my question to you, what do you think it is without doing the math? Do you think it's $300? Do you think it's 800? Do you think it's more or less? What do you think? All right. The answer, spoiler alert, is going to be very, very surprising. So the official U.S. population by the U.S. Census Bureau is 329,409,746. So this is the US population value that we'll use, and we'll divide our currency, official currency estimate by this number. Well, it's about to become 7. It doesn't really matter. Let's make it 50. Okay, so I just did the math for you. So this is the estimate of how much currency there is in circulation in the United States. And this is the estimate of how many people there are in the United States. And this is the value that we were looking for. I told you were going to be surprised. Many of you were making guesses, and I'm pretty sure because I've run this experiment in class many times in the past. Many of you were actually, in the hundreds of dollars in terms of how much money is in circulation on average. But the actual value is about $5,200 right now. Now, this is explained by many factors. The first factor is currency, remember, is not held by people only, it is also held by businesses. So businesses, of course, hold much more cash than people. So this will, definitely, increase the average amount of cash held. That's number one. Number two, the black markets are also a reason why this value is so high. And a black market means that it's something illegal. So if you're doing something illegal, you can't really keep the money or the proceeds from the illegal activity in the banking system. You have to keep them in cash. So you see people doing drugs or any sort of black market item, they hold a lot of cash. So we're talking about people that have hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash or even millions. So this definitely increases this value as well. All right, so this is how much currency people hold on average in the United States of America right now. All right, so you can see that the M2 measure of money supply is much larger than M1 because it includes M1 and other items like saving deposits, small time deposits, and retail money funds. As you can see, saving deposits are much larger than demand deposits. In other words, the money in all saving accounts is more than the money in all checking accounts, which makes sense, right? Because saving accounts are built over time. But the checking account is what you have, that you spend on a day-to-day basis, and you actually take some money off of your checking account to put it in the saving account and so on and so forth, right? So, and again, this is built over time, so it makes sense that it's actually much larger. So this is what the money supply in the USA looks like today. Now, let's talk about these three items here, which are part of M2 and not in M1. It's important to understand why we have this differentiation. But they are called the non-M1 M2. So M2 components not in M1. Okay, so it's about $11,334 billion. Okay, so again, this is the total non-M1 components of M2, and these are the components which are not part of M1. Okay, small denomination time deposits, saving deposits, and retail money fund. Okay, so why do we have two different values or two different measures of money supply? Why does the Fed, use M1, and why does the Fed also use M2? Why that, distinction? Well, it's for a very good reason. The components of M1 have a higher velocity than the other components, the non-M1, M2 components. What does velocity mean? The velocity of money is the average number of times money changes hands in a year. Okay. Now let me go back a few slides and let's try to understand it. In M1 we have currency, we have demand deposits, and we have other checkable deposits. These components represent money that you are ready to spend. When you have cash on you, you are ready to spend it. Demand deposits, you just need your debit card, to access the money here, or you can, whenever you pay, some things online, you can just use that debit card number and then do that. Other checkable deposits, same. So the cash, or the units of money in these components are spent more times in a year on average than these non-M1, M2 components. Think about it. Saving deposits. Remember, there's a restriction on how much you can withdraw, how many times you can withdraw per month. So you are not going to spend it very often. Small time deposits. That's an account that you open and you have restricted withdrawal abilities for a limited period of time, right? So you can't really spend it the way you want. Same for the retail money fund. This is an investment. Once you invest your money, it is working for you, but you cannot really spend it at the same time, right? So this distinction between M1 and M2, and of course M2 also has all the M1 components, but the reason why M1 is a separate measure of money supply is it actually allows the Fed to know, let's say, the level of business activity, or not necessarily business, but transactional activities in the country. Okay, so if M1 is bigger, it means that there's more activity, there's more money changing hands because it's more currency, more demand deposit, and more checkable deposits. Okay, but if M1 goes down, it means that there's less business activity. So this is also a measure that is used in other countries, and you can compare the level of business activity. If you take some Asian countries, especially Eastern Asian countries, for example, well, historically, they have, their culture is more towards the dynasty, which means that a man is successful if that man has saved enough for, or a person in general, okay? If they have saved enough for their children, their grandchildren, their great-grandchildren, so they're talking about the dynasty, or they think about the dynasty more. This is what has historically, been the case for them. So in countries like that, this would be much bigger. Okay, all these investments for the future will be much bigger, in percentage at least, than what they have for spending now. Okay, and you can use this to kind of tell that, okay, the people in this country, business activity is a little slower than another country that has a bigger M1 in percentage values, of course. So this is the main reason for the difference between M1 and M2. Okay, we want to find out how much business activity there is, and M2 of course includes everything. So this is the end of the chapter. So you should now be able to define money, identify the three functions of money, explain why people generally prefer liquidity, explain how money has evolved over time, identify the issues of a payment system and how another system may be a solution, identify the two main measures of money supply, and identify the components of the money supply measures. Okay, so in the slides which are posted for you, you also have some practice questions. So you may want to take a look at them, okay? But I also posted a separate file which has these practice questions and more, okay? And you also have the data analysis project in this slide. Don't worry, I am actually going to tell you more about the data analysis project in a separate video, and there's going to be a separate file for it. So you should not really worry about this for now. Okay, thank you very much, and see you in the next video.